Hello and welcome to my series. Today we'll be going through Language Paper 2, the AQA paper. Have you been struggling with this paper? In this video, I'm going to give you an overview of the whole paper. In the next part of the series, I'm going to go through every single question and show you how you can answer them and be successful in this paper. So Language Paper 2, the main focus is on the writer's viewpoints and perspectives. It's important to ask yourself, what do these two words mean? Because viewpoints, perspectives, thoughts, feelings, attitudes, these words interlink. The paper is testing your understanding and your ability to write in a non-fiction way. So you need to be able to write an article, speech, newsletter. It's also important to think about, why might a writer wish to share their viewpoint and perspective? So when we think of viewpoints and perspectives, it's how we interpret something, how we feel towards something, and how do we show this. When reading these texts, it's important to understand the clues, tone, and the writer's perspectives or feelings towards a certain issue. And if we look at the first bit, it's always good to start with your own personal on these topics. We all have unique perspectives on everything around us. For example, Donald Trump. Some might like him, some may loathe him. Everyone has a different opinion on him. How do they express it? We've got TikTok, the social media frenzy. TikTok has taken over every avenue of the world. A younger audience might have a different viewpoint as opposed to an older audience like myself. And then we have camping. Some people might not enjoy camping, some may enjoy it. So again, it's what is your viewpoint? How are you going to express it? Your ideas need to be expressed around your viewpoint and perspective. You need to bring your own thinking and clarity of ideas to this paper. Paper 2 is 1 hour and 45 minutes. There are two sections. The reading section, which should take you about an hour. You've got the writing section, which is 45 minutes. And it's important to navigate your time well. In the reading section, you're given two different sources, both non-fiction pieces. One of them is a modern text, something that's fairly modern. One of these texts will be from the 19th century. You will need to start getting used to reading these types of non-fiction texts. In section B, you have to write your own non-fiction text. We'll speak more about that later on. If we look at section A, reading consists of 40 marks. The whole of section A is 40 marks. 25% of that is on two non-fiction texts, one from the 19th century, one from the 20th century. For question 1, you need to select 4 true statements, which is 4 marks. Question 2 is a summary question. When I did my AQA marking, this was a question where a lot of students were getting 4 marks, less than 5 marks. So this is a question that needs a lot of attention. Question 3 is similar to Language Paper 1, question 2. So you're analyzing the language, so it's worth 12 marks. And question 4, you're comparing between both sources, and it's a total mark out of 16. So that's the whole of section A, which equates to 40 marks. When we come to section B, it's a writing section. You have to express your own viewpoint, your own perspective. You'll be given a statement, and then you have to either write to argue, persuade, explain, and it might be in the form of a speech, newsletter, or article. You're marked out of 24 marks for your content and organization, which is AO5, 16 marks for spelling, punctuation, and grammar, or technical accuracy for AO6. In my later videos, I'll break down all the markings. For the whole paper, you've got an hour and 45 minutes. 80 marks available. I would start with spending about 10 minutes reading both texts, highlighting, making notes as you're going along. I wouldn't read the questions first. I'd actually read the paper, get a really good understanding of the extract, highlight, and your skills of comprehension here are essential. When we look at question 1, 4-mark question, choosing 4 true statements, reading and understanding is essential. Question 2, you're writing a summary of the differences or similarities of both sources. And here you're showing your skills of inference. So it's worth 8 marks. So I'd spend 10 minutes. For this question, you're looking at the whole of source A and the whole of source B. So you're going to need to be very assertive in picking out your quotes and how you're going to compare appropriately. You do not need to analyze any language or structural devices. It's an inference question where you're summarizing. Question 3, how does the writer use language for effect? This is worth 12 marks. You need to write a bit more than your question 2. And I'd spend about 15 minutes. I'd advise at least 2 detailed paragraphs where you're analyzing the language, commenting on the language techniques, and exploring this further. Now, if we get to question 4, you're comparing both sources in detail, focusing on how they present the central topic. So the writers will both comment on a specific topic, but their viewpoints should be different. You need to write at least 2 detailed paragraphs, comment on how the writers feel about the topic that has been given, what is their perspective on this, and then you also need to analyze the language or structure within your commentary and explanations. That's question 4. Finally, when you get to question 5, this is the bit where you're taking ownership of producing a detailed piece. You need to write, argue, persuade, and explain. Spend 45 minutes on this section, which is worth 40 marks. I can't stress how important this section is. One of the essentials is establishing a clear viewpoint and a perspective. Understand the question or the statement and think about how you feel towards this statement. Bring in all of your prior knowledge around this. And there's many different questions that can be given and scenarios in terms of the statement. Be aware of different issues that are happening in society and thinking about how you can bring that in. And I'll comment on this later on in my videos. So now, suggestions of tips and methods that I would focus on. So expressing a clear perspective and viewpoint, being able to use rhetorical questions, bring in some facts and expert opinions that sound reliable. You might consider an anecdote. You must be assertive in your ideas. You can use flattery to show your understanding of the topic, to appeal to the reader, to establish a clear tone. Some students just focus on these methods, but they don't express a clear viewpoint. Just like the 2 texts that you read at the beginning, which have a clear perspective, a viewpoint, you need to show that because their viewpoint might change, so might yours as your writing develops. And our success criteria, so using sophisticated vocabulary, a range of sentences, so short, compound, complex sentences, because that's referenced in the mark scheme. So these are AO6 technical skills. A range of punctuation, so semicolons, colons, speech marks. You want to use the full set. So you want to have really detailed understanding of the topic that you're talking about. So the details are important. You don't want your ideas to be on a simple level. Think of a range of sentence openings. You shouldn't just open sentences with the and it. Think about establishing clear and relevant persuasive techniques throughout. That's my overview of language paper 2. It's just an introduction. I'll be doing a whole series on paper 2. If you haven't seen my previous series on paper 1, I'd recommend you watch that. In these videos, I'm going to go over all of the questions and give you an overview of how to answer them from the perspective of an AQA examiner, look at model answers, unpick the questions, and model some examples so you can successfully thrive in this paper. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Make sure you like and subscribe.